What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt practice report. It was a big day down at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. We heard from Christian Veilleux, new starting quarterback for the Pitt Panthers for the first time since, I believe, training camp, probably even spring ball, after he was named the starter earlier this week. And there were a couple big things that I thought stood out from our conversation with Christian, who, was for not seemingly having a lot of experience talking to the media over his short time at Pitt was pretty impressive. Seemed like he was well spoken. Has a clear plan for how he wants to lead this team and what he wants to do with himself in this new role. So we'll get right into that because I think a few things really stood out to me, and I think the first one is that there's an emphasis on business as usual for this team right now. You understand that. I mean, just because they had the bye week and just because they're inserting a new quarterback into the lineup doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to kind of reinvent themselves. Quarterback's an important position, and putting someone new in there certainly changes things, but it doesn't make them a completely different team. They're still going to run the same scheme that everyone's familiar with. They're not doing completely new installs. And to be honest, Christian is not that radically different as far as a style of play of quarterback as Phil Dracovic was. He might be a little less inclined to run, maybe more of a pocket passer, but even then, I think the difference is marginal. So the Panthers are really just trying to stick to what they know and what they can do. And as Veyer told us, focus on execution, less on, like I said, reinventing themselves, and more on just getting down what they do and what they know, and just making sure that they execute those things correctly. And I think they're also, in kind of a grander philosophical sense, just trying to stay locked in and not kind of feed into maybe some of that outside noise that, we all kind of participate in because we're fans and spectators, and can afford to think a little bit more big picture than some of these guys, than these players, especially, and coaches. But they are staying focused on the here and now. Not looking towards, well, what's the end of this season going to hold? What can they do to kind of salvage a season? What are the end results going to be of the season that started in a pretty poor place? They're thinking just about the next game, just about what's going on Saturday. Pat Narduzzi said that in his opening week press conference. Just this isn't a look towards the future. This is a move to try to help them win now, and that's what they're looking for in Veyer. Not to develop him for next year or anything like that, but they're looking for a spark in the here and now. The next thing that kind of stood out to me about Veyer, our specific conversation with him, is that I think he's got a ton of humility to him. He's really careful to not paint his arrival as starting quarterback as, well, yeah, I'm better than Phil. I'm going to immediately lift this team out in this offense out from, the depths of a pretty rough first half. I think he just, highlighted that he maybe has something different, that he, is capable of leading this team as a starter. He was appreciative of the work that Phil put in, the experience that Phil has, and the success that Phil has had at this level of football. And he said he's continuing to reach out to Phil and ask him questions and tap his brain, and try to utilize that experience that's ahead of him on the that was ahead of him on the depth chart, and had played so many games at this level, to kind of get a better understanding of what to expect when he steps out onto that field for the first time as a starter in his collegiate career. He also took full responsibility for all of his turnovers against North Carolina, the one FBS team that he played this year. He had 3 turnovers in that game. A lot of them were pretty ugly, but he took full responsibility for them. Said that he's using that as a learning experience as well, trying to move forward. He is not the first person who's going to take responsibility for poor play. Plenty of quarterbacks will do that, but I think the biggest thing for me was how careful he was to not temper expectations. That's not the right word, but to kind of highlight that he's not the savior, that it is going to take everyone doing their job well in this offense to really kickstart this team and make sure that they get headed in the right direction. I also added that, it, he believes in scheme and the players and the coaches and the program as a whole. But when it comes to the on the field stuff, it really just comes down to simple execution. The guys that he believes in, and these players that he believes are talented, these coaches who he believes have a good scheme and are calling the right plays, need to be aided by the players on the field who are, doing the actual job. So put a lot of the responsibility on himself and the rest of his teammates to do the right things, to be in the right spots, make the right plays. It was less, big picture kind of not grandstanding, but it was less big picture talk about, we're going to, reinvent ourselves or be really different. He believes they have the capability to be a good team. They just got to go out and do it and just execute the things that they know they can do. Because I think like him, I kind of believe that there's still a bunch of talent on this team. That this isn't a completely bare cupboard at all, and that honestly, 1-4 is, I always hesitate to say this, but not exactly indicative of how good this team could be, and how good they maybe should be. I still think there's a ton of talent there. I mean, you always are what your record is. You're only as good as what you put out on the field, but I still think there's a lot of talent that's still developing. I think this team is getting younger, and still kind of going through some of those growing pains of losing a lot of NFL talent and older seniors and veterans and guys who contributed to winning for a long time. And this might just be a rebuilding year, but, this he continues to be forward, looking there, that is, and, keep thinking about, how he can help this team, eh, just move forward, make some progress. It's not about, you know, "Hey, I can come and spark this offense and be something, completely different that we really needed." It's about, you know, kind of a rising tide lifting all boats and trying to get everyone to maximize their potential over the second half of the year. That was kind of what I, took away from Veilleux and the way he talked about what his role in this offense would be moving forward as the new starting quarterback. I also thought it was interesting the way that he defined his leadership style, and he emphasized his leadership style and his personality as things that, you know, would really make him capable of helping this team and being a valuable contributor as the starting quarterback. He talked about, really specifically just knowing his teammates. That was the biggest thing. That's how he felt like he leads, is knowing the personality of the guys that he's working with and knowing, okay, maybe they need to be, pressed a little bit, and maybe I need to come down a little harder on them and let them know that, hey, we need this from them and be a little more forceful. Where there are other guys where you need to pull back a little bit, where you need to be more, a little softer. I think this is something that coaches go through a lot as well. Is just knowing how to coach certain guys because certain guys don't respond to certain ways of coaching or certain ways of reinforcing them, whether it's negative or positive. So Bayer said one of the biggest emphases for him as he went through spring ball and training camp in the off season, and then into the regular season was just to get to know the guys that he's going to be playing with, and getting to know how they respond to certain things on the football field and what they need from a leader. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was, a pretty direct and tangible way for someone to say, I lead in this way. I think you get a lot of abstracts when you talk about leadership. But Vare was very pointed and said, no, this is how I lead. There are very specific actions that I do when I want to lead. And, I start with these things and then, you know, they can lead to kind of the next step and the next step of getting to know my guys and getting them pointed in the right direction. So those are my big takeaways from our conversation with Christian Veilleux. That's obviously the story of the week. As we kind of march towards Louisville week, there was one more big story this week, one that popped up yesterday, and I do want to take a second to talk about that. It's about something that I posted on social media yesterday, and it was about that now, I guess, infamous blue vase that mans the front of the Pitt practice facility. Noah Hiles and Chris Carter from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who want to say have been really good to me as mentors and friends as I try to carve out a space in this industry. Took a lot of heat. They reported something wrong. I did too. We all, took a picture of that vase and had the wrong impression of what it meant. We heard something wrong that was wrong and incomplete. and we ran with it. And they took a lot of the heat from former players and fans and former members of the program who just told them that they didn't have the full story. And I somehow dodged a lot of that heat, but I deserve to take some of it as well because I didn't do something. I didn't do my job completely as well. Um, there was clearly a much deeper meaning to that base than I knew, and it's been explained by a couple people on social media. Gavin Bartholomew and Jake Cradle are on the team now. Took time to explain it on Noah's podcast, and you know, on the Pat Narduzzi radio show this week, there's a segment talking about the vase and what it means. So I'd encourage you to check those out, get the full story from them. As for my part in this, I didn't know about the significance of the vase, and I didn't think to pursue it any further. I got a pretty simple answer, and I to a simple answer to a simple question, and I ran with it. That's not an excuse, but it's what I did wrong. Certainly wasn't trying to poke fun at the program. Even with my incomplete knowledge, I did see the merit of trying to find a way to move past a rough start. However silly that might have looked to some people on the outside, I did think, you know, metaphors and symbols are strong and can be powerful, and they matter. They can matter to people inside of organizations. So I also didn't think that it would achieve the kind of wide reach it did. But it's my job to get the full story about something before I report it, and I didn't do that this time. I didn't follow through on the job that I'm supposed to do, and I apologize for that. Won't happen again, and I'll continue to try to deliver the best and most accurate and meaningful pick coverage I can for you guys because I'm really grateful to be doing this job, and uh, I don't want to make mistakes like this again. So, with that, I'm headed out of here. Thanks for tuning into another Inside Pit Practice Report. My name is Stephen Thompson. I want you to stay tuned with us through the end of this week for some more insight and analysis as the Panthers get ready to host a big game at Acrisure Stadium against number 14 Louisville. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@InsideThePanthers, and find all of our reporting right from pit practices and games at InsideThePanthers.com. Appreciate you tuning in again, and until next time, see you.